Hello, welcome everybody, and welcome to Curve Connect. Today we are very lucky to have with us an amazing panel of incredible professionals who will talk about the unlimited potential of the invisible generation of 50 and plus. To tell you a little bit about this webinar today, so this demographic of 50 plus is a dynamic, energized, and well-connected community of people who want to change the world and live with purpose. The age group will continue to grow over the next decade by about 19 million, versus only 6 million for the 18 and 49 population. Designing the best products and services for the generation has to include the end users in the process. We need to learn how to design not for them, but with them. This is the topic we're going to talk about today. Let me introduce you the hosts and the panelists. So our lovely host today is Efros, and our incredible panel, we have Jos Berry, founder of Concepts Paris, Maina Cisse, who is the founder of The Under Argument, Susie Wakefield, who is the founder of Susie Wakefield Designs. We have Todd Mick, Executive Director, Fashion Practices at NPD. And we have Laura Menchini from Mickey Guy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Laura. And first, I would like to thank the whole entire Revit team for running a series of these amazing, informative, and inspirational webinars, and to Raphael Camp for not choosing easy ways and picking really edgy and complicated topics. So, I would love to share my screen now. And start talking about this incredible demographic. And while I was preparing this webinar, I just more and more understood how awesome this demographic is. So these are shiny examples of that demographic, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, this year, he's 73, governor of California of 8 years, and now a sustainability activist. Jenny from the block is now joined the demographic. She's 51 and looking gorgeous in this amazing dress. Brad Pitt, always gorgeous, now 56. Demi Moore, just sporting two-piece bathing suit, and active and gorgeous at 57. Looking better than ever, Marc Jacobs at 57 as well. I love this picture of Jennifer Aniston in black and white, and she is 51. Paul McCartney, I went to his concert 2 years ago, and he rocks at 78. And bigger than life, Oprah Winfrey, 66, and this man needs no introduction. He also rocks at 64. And just quickly about all generations that are alive today. It's a greatest generation who went into adulthood during the Second World War, and now they're in their 90s and 100s. Silent generation who grew up in 50s and 60s, and proper households demanded for kids to be seen but not heard. And of course, wonderful baby boomers, Woodstock and Beatles. And Generation X, the interesting for me part of this generation is they implemented computers in their work environment. And of course, our wonderful millennials, or Gen Y, which are super eco-conscious and very aware of the environment. And Generation Z, who is the savviest in digital world. And I would like to address my first question to Todd. And please, Todd, I know that I've watched so many of your webinars, and you always come equipped with a portfolio of incredible data, which actually creates base for all our theories and hypotheses. So if you can please share data about this demographic with us.
Sure. I'll share some top line information and I'll share some data throughout the presentation. And those of you who aren't familiar with NPD, we track over 20 industries in the general merchandise categories in store, including apparel, fashion and athletic footwear, prestige beauty. So we kind of track all the businesses head to toe. Our businesses are based on actual point of sale data from over 290,000 retail doors. And we do 12 million consumer surveys a year. So we're really tracking what's going on in the US market. My apologies to Yost because it is US data, it's not global data. But I was really excited that to be involved in this panel because I work with all the major brands in the intimate apparel space in the US. And I've actually been talking to them about, it's not just about millennials and Gen Z. The opportunity is for actually millennials and boomers and Gen X. And to sort of put some numbers around it, in the US, the over 50 market represents $4.5 billion in sales in intimate apparel, which is a pretty sizable chunk. That's bigger than Victoria's Secret. So that's how big this market is. And what I think is also interesting, and I know the panelists are going to really expound on this, is we talk anecdotally that the boomers and late Gen X are more affluent. They're in their prime earning years and tend to have more disposable income and are subsidizing the lifestyles of their millennial kids and Gen Z kids. And that's actually absolutely true. Women over 50 with household incomes of over $100,000 grew by 3%, and their share of that income bracket grew by almost 5%. So again, this is a big market that has money to spend and is really, quite honestly, untapped. I'll give a couple of examples of people who I think are doing it well, but that kind of will start the data flow off for the conversation.
Oh, thank you so much, Todd. So I think next we'll talk to Laura. And Laura is a founder of social platform for that exact demographic, 50 plus, called Guy. And Laura, I know that you are updating your platform, and the next generation will, begin soon. So if you can tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Guy is what we like to call going into becoming a longevity concierge, because we're looking at the idea of aging not as a loss, but aging with purpose. And the new modern 50 plus is wanting to keep themselves healthy for as long as possible. One of the biggest achievements in the last century has been life extension, and we don't talk enough about that. People that are 50 now feel like they're 30. People that are 60, we say 60 is the new 40. And extending life is not just about living longer, but about living the good years longer. Because if you live 150, but 75 of those years are not good, it doesn't really count. It's how long you have purpose, how long you're independent, and how long you're physically active, which is completely shown in the images that you're going to show us very shortly. But I'm going to show you quickly. Can I share my screen? So when we say that we're looking at the market from a longevity perspective, is because the largest population, which Todd meant, with the most purchasing power, is changing the way we look at retirement. What we call the ageless explorer is seeking longevity filled with purpose and individuality. And one of the biggest things that's that is changing is that the myth or aging before used to be thought as a monolithic experience, unhealthy. Products were focused on the health and aging, on the health aspect of things, and aging was seen as declining, slowing down, moving to the sidelines. What you're talking about here for the new modern 50 plus is aging is different for all ages. People are living healthier than ever. And the most important part is they're interested in new experiences and purpose. Aging is full of curiosity and continuous pursuit of newness. So just to add to more data, 70% of the wealth of the Western world is in the hands of people over 50. we're talking about a 3.2 trillion spending power market. That is a lot of money. ARP has said that if we put the boomers as an economy, they would be the third largest economy in the world. And the fact of the matter is that people are ready, they want to be shown in movies, they want to be shown in advertising campaigns, they want products that they can relate to that have, and when we talk about, we're not talking about anti-aging anymore, but we're talking about longevity. We're talking about how to, one of our brands that we're going to be featuring in the following months, it says cells in, where you know, the same way that women can put away their embryos or their eggs, now you're going to be able to put away your cells, so that when biotechnology gets better in the next 5 years, people are going to be able to use these to improve their health. There's a world of opportunity both in the physical and mental aspect of things, and at Makigai we're just bringing it all together in one hub, so that we want to be kind of the cool AARP, or the ARP of longevity, so that our members, when they sign up, they know they're signing up to feeling better about themselves, not to feel like they're coming to the end of life, but to say they're still engaged, they're still curious, they're still cool, and that's what it is. And that's why I really love the 50 plus demographic. I'm 42 myself. I just found out I'm a millennial. I thought I was a Gen Xer, but I'm basically creating a club that I would want to join when I'm 50 or 60. That's how, you know, changing the aging experience.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was amazing picture of the future. I like that. And actually, I read a scientific paper where they said that the person that will live to 150 is alive now. It's alive today, and it's in their that person is in their 50s. So I spoke with Janet Seltzer, and she was sitting on her balcony in Florida, and we had this conversation, and she said, well, people are going to live to 150. And so at 50, we might be just halfway through or third way through our lives. Thank you so much, Laura. And let me share my screen again. And we are going to so my next question will be to yours, but before I ask the question, I just want to take this opportunity, yours, and thank you for, I'd like to express my gratitude for being, to yours for being inspiration and mentor to 100 and maybe 1,000 lingerie designers, including myself. And Concept Paris, the website and the trend book are work of art and works of art and full of color, abundant with texture, information, and beautiful, charming illustrations that are very recognizable. And yours, you are a fearless defender and advocate for woman's right to be herself, and the woman is that lingerie lover and lingerie wearer. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And so my question is, who is this woman? If you can just tell us a little bit about her.
No, she's me. She's basically me, and everybody in a daily basis I live with. I would say over 40. I think 50 is here the dividing line. But I find myself closer connected to the 40 and between me and the rest than to a whole range of people who are in the age group but somehow have decided there also there's a big difference between, and that is definitely more argumentally for a lot of people. Also, when you live, suppose you live in an agricultural countryside where a lot of aged people are, it is very difficult to continue to live as you feel. And I mean, I do not feel remotely different than when I was 40. But on the other hand, I feel quite blessed because I have so much knowledge, and that knowledge that in our society, what was not true, you could not use that after a certain age anymore because you were supposed to keep your mouth shut. That is now well used and also very highly recommended in certain ways. So I'm a very happy person. But what I see around me, even here in France, and especially also in certain parts of America, that there is still an age divide, but that age divide is less between the young and us. It is more between the old and us. That is, I don't know how you think about it, but they find me quite strange. And they find it also quite strange that I remember sitting in a taxi and making a remark about all those striking people here in Paris. And he said, are you still working? And I said, yes, I'm very active and I travel a lot. And the man said, that's a shame. You should stop working. You should go out of society and leave it to us. And I thought, oh, oops, that's another point of view. So there are some preconceptions of being old. That is certainly in our society with the social media. I think it's going away. I find that people with whom I find most connected are younger people. That must go for all of you. It's quite interesting that there are, especially when it comes to, and we are here in fashion, when it comes to how you look, what you want to wear, how you decide to be your own person, there are some heavy ideas in society that at a certain age you should not do that anymore. And that is certainly in a city as New York, no problem. In a city as London, no problem. In a city as Paris, no problem. But the moment you go outside, and I live just outside Paris, the ladies of my age look at me like a sort of crazy alien. So that is no, I'm not sensitive for that. So, but that's an issue as well. I see it as well in some people around me who say, yeah, I would like exactly to be dressed like you, or to do like you, or to be because I have so much to say and I can still work and say, but my environment thinks it's not appropriate. So that there is actually a sort of discrimination going on also. Although we are very fit, and although we live very long, and although we have an enormous amount of knowledge, you need also to have a little bit of hair on your teeth to get through that discrimination, actually. So that we are also the gray wave is also a little bit seen as people who are active, but they shouldn't be, because they take also the place of younger people who needed the jobs and they have the families to raise. And what the heck are we doing in that society? And that is certainly the case here in France.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Well, yes, the mindset change, I think, it has to happen, because there are a lot of preconceived notions and stereotypes, and we'll talk about it. We'll definitely talk about it today, and not just today. We have to talk about constantly. And let me share my screen again and go to this slide, where we did our title is has the invisible the word invisible in our title, because there is, like, as we discussed today, the demographic is very prominent in politics, business, science, art, social landscape. However, when we go to all the basically places where brands meet directly with customers, it's not there, it's missing. So websites, ads, other types of advertisement, social media, it's they just this demographic is not present. And for lingerie, I feel like it's also it's a separate topic, because it's such a like it's so personal and up close. So
See, I can add, sorry, just quickly, I can actually
please.
add, I can add figures to that and tell you that only 10% of marketing dollars are spent on the 50 plus. So that's why it's not reflected. And ageism, what Jaws was talking about, costs the North American GDP $850 billion a year.
Yes,
For various reasons. So yeah, ageism is the problem. Being called the invisible demographic is the problem. You know, it's
exactly.
part of the, yeah, the issue.
Absolutely. And this is the untapped potential. It's almost endless, actually. And we had a lot of conversations about it with my friend Susie, who I met via Zoom, and now we have our brainstorm weekly Zoom sessions, lunches, as I call them. And Susie will, she is like a shiny member of this demographic, and a designer and founder of Susie Wakefield Designs. And we'll talk with Susie about images. And maybe a little bit in the beginning, Susie, let us know what you do, because it's super relevant to our topic. And I'll even share some of the amazing boards and illustrations that Susie creates, which is they're full of color, life, and light. I love those. So, and we call our meetings, it's kind of female ship of creatives, because it's a super creative generation as well. So, Susie, would you like to tell us a little bit more? Maybe don't be humble about it, but please tell us a little more about you and what you feel, how this demographic is presented in imagery.
Well, thank you, Asi. That was very kind. I appreciate it. And yes, to echo what Laura have been saying, I mean, I think speaking as a newly minted 50 generation, it's a great time to take purpose and evolve it. I mean, to go from my own personal story, my purpose for so long was raising 2 kids and working my way up in a very large corporation. I spent most of my career at Victoria's Secret, which was great because it gave me so many learnings and so many opportunities to be able to then take what I do now and be able to share it with the next generation. What's so nice for me, and related to what Jos was saying, is so many of my clients are really young and they have these great ideas and they want to get out there in the world with their product. They just need help because they don't have, in a way, the advantage that I look at it like I and many of our generation had, is it was before computers. So you had to learn how to draw. We had the ability to have sample rooms and pattern makers, which is so much of a lost art. So I would go down when I was a young designer and sit in the sample room till all hours with the team. And that's the way I learned garments, traveling all over the world to be able to be in vendor sample rooms. So these people now have great ideas. Like, I work with talented companies, whether they're designing and have a specific idea, or whether they want me to design it, but they've got a niche they're finding in the market. I find it to be a great combination, and I would say it's probably relevant in any industry because we've got wisdom and we've got history on our side, and we can combine it with some of the confidence and the inspiration that these young minds have. And it makes me feel younger. I feel like I'm constantly challenged and looking upon to have new ideas. And I do, because to Yos's point, I don't feel old. I don't feel like 50 is anything that feels like I should be taking the other side of the hill. I feel like I'm constantly learning. And part of that, as you do, Asi, I know all the time, is it gives me the ability to be able to mentor this next generation. And speaking of what other amazing dynamic women are doing, I know you've got a lot of slides of the women who are modeling now, who are being looked upon. Colleen Heidemann, she's incredible. I love how on her Instagram, her bio says, if not now, when? And it's so true. It's like make hay while the sun shines, and look at how inspiring she is and how beautiful. She, I think, was based in Palm Springs, and a gentleman who had a blog to celebrate older women came into her shop and said, you would be an amazing story for this. Now Sylvie Bloom, who's a German photographer, photographs her, and she's incredible, and she's loud and proud, and she looks amazing, and it's such inspiration that, as Yos always says, you can be sexy at 20 and you can be equally sexy at 70. Because
Yeah.
who wouldn't want to have the spirit that she has and the beauty in that garment?
I would like to say something after that. There is indeed, she's a beautiful woman. But I feel that there is also a movement going, and I enjoy very much the women who are, and you must have seen that, Rebecca Moses, who has her Stay Home Sisterhood. She started during lockdown, and it's not so surprising. She is over 50. That most of the people who became attached to that Stay Home Sisterhood are also not the youngest people. And most of those women, actually, they are talking about just having their wrinkles and be the way they are, and not necessarily need to be looking young. It's nice to be young, but also a sort of achievement of wearing your history on your skin, and that is certainly I feel for a lot of our generation as well, that constantly being compared, which is a very, very big problem for younger people, being compared with the creative beauty. I think that exactly is what makes our generation so interesting. We don't give a damn, basically. So of course there are a lot of cosmetic surgeons who would like us to give a damn, and we can do some nip and tuck, but on the other hand, to enjoy the material you have and to make the best out of it is also a very quieting, a very, very relaxing moment to stand in front of a mirror in a shop when you find something. And that is our discussion at the moment. Is the fashion industry aware of what is so different for that generation? Because when you see a woman like Colleen Heidemann, I can imagine that there is no difference in what she wants to wear than people who are younger. But in my opinion, there is a big difference what we want to wear. And that has not so much to do with the style, but also with our experience already happened. We have seen a lot. So we are not so impressed by the silly things anymore. So we would like to feel that in those shops, and when we talk about lingerie, especially in lingerie, that there is something that that obviously fit. I mean, a car drives on 4 wheels, let's face it, and not being taken like an idiot by a girl with a centimeter, with a tape measure, but and also we know about material, and we know what is beautiful, and we know what scratches, and it's also an attitude I find very often of, okay, that woman is old, let me reform her or something like that. Now that happens. Sometimes I'm with my younger designers in a shop, and they laugh their hearts out and they say, you should say who you are. I said, no, I don't, but let them go. Where you try to buy lingerie and they go on and on and on, that probably I would not wear the right size, etc. And that is also something which is typical for which I have heard from a lot of people of my age. It's a stumbling block. It avoids you to walk in certain shops because you think, oh, there we go again. So that is certainly also a learning curve. What are you all thinking about that?
That is such an amazing point. Many points, actually. And one of them is, it's interesting. I mean, Laura, how do you feel, if you can get us the inside view of your members, how do they want to be perceived? How do they want to be addressed?
I just have to say that to Joss's point, the only thing is that you can't say, I say again, aging is non-monolithic. 50 to 60 is very different from 60 to 70 to 70 to 80. And the needs of each group are completely different. The way they perceive themselves is completely different. What a 50-year-old is wanting is very different from a 60-year-old. And I do realize that the older you get, the bigger acceptance. You're happy with your life, you've gone through things, you're accepting your wrinkles, and you're fine with it. A 50-year-old, I have to say that over 70% of our demographic is just under 60 over 50. They don't identify with the concept of aging. And one of the first things that I ask to my investor, the people that I'm pitching for investment, I say to them, how old do you feel? Not how old you are, how old do you feel? And most people will say that our 50s, they feel 30. I myself, I'm 42, I feel 30. I still perceive myself as that person. And most people stay one age through their adulthood lives, and that's how they conceive their image. So when their body starts changing, then acceptance comes. But the 50 demographic, I believe they're still seeking how to stay. They're okay with aging, but they want to stay closer to how they feel in their minds for as long as possible, which is a completely different thing for the 60 plus, because the 60 plus, they've accepted their aging, they're happy with it. Now their main concern is how do they stay healthy for as long as possible. So I think it's just treating it in different, I mean, you look at Jennifer Lopez, she's 50, she did that image that you showed, and she literally swung from a pole during the Super Bowl. You never saw that before. It's not necessarily the most chic thing to do, but what's interesting about it is like her body is at a completely different performance than it would have been 20 years ago. And that's what a 50-year-old wants to be now. They want to feel like they have the body of a 30-year-old. I'm not a proponent of plastic surgery because I lived in Europe for 11 years, and I see how European women do appreciate their skin or how they are much more than in North America. But I do believe in preserving your body, the notion that the 50-year-old doesn't see themselves as an aging being so much as an extension of that 30, 40-year-old feeling in which they can still do a lot. That's my take on things in terms of not making aging a monolithic experience.
I would agree with you.
Right.
I think it's a really relevant point, because even aside from how you're treating your body in terms of whether you choose to get anything done or not, it's you're still of a mindset that you feel young and you feel like the world is still ahead of you and you're taking care of yourself. And now there is such a wide array from age and opportunities to be healthy that opens up things too.
Oh,
For
thank you
sure.
so much, Susie. Very amazing points. And so if this demographic is not quite present in our imagery, and it's probably 95% not. So I feel like there is some kind of learning curve has to happen of how we present and how we photograph, how we perceive this demographic, and really overturn the notion that younger is better. And to talk about this, I want to go to Maina, and Maina has already completely overturned basically the holy grail of fashion process, which is a model screening process for the photo shoot. And she created this fantastic label, which I think that under argument, which I think is a brand of the future and just operating today. If you can, Maina, please tell us about your process, the anti-casting process, which now is a movement, because I know that other companies would like you to create this process for them. So please tell us a little bit about that.
It's funny that you're putting this picture, because obviously there's a lot of younger people on this picture, but there's a range of people from the age of 20 to 45 on this picture actually, and a lot of people want to see something very specific when they think about someone over the age of 50, or to put in places. When I was thinking about the images I wanted to show for my brand, because each of the collections that I create is called an argument against the norm. So you can see here the collection for loving against conforming, for example. I didn't want to define what that story, what the meaning of each of those collections would be. And I really wanted to give a space to women to share their stories and share their experience. And that's how I came about creating the anti-casting. And so the anti-casting is something I created a couple of years ago, whereby for each of my collections, I offer women to share their story. They send their stories to me in relation to the theme. I don't ask for photos, I don't ask for measurement, I don't know anything about them apart from the story that they decide to share. And for me, that was a way of not trying to tick boxes. I believe that diversity is important, I believe that representation is important, but I didn't want to define it myself. I think that a Black person doesn't, it's not because I see a Black person in the media that I feel represented. And I don't feel like when it comes to age, it's not because someone has gray hair that everybody over the age of 50 is all of a sudden represented. And I really wanted to push the boundary a little bit, think about stories first, don't put the body and physical traits first. And so the anti-casting is really helping me do that. It's helping me showing different types of women or people that want to share a story, even though they don't feel like genderless, or they feel like they are transitioning, and they feel like they want to embrace a side of themselves. So there is a relation to the body in the exercise of the anti-casting, because you come and shoot with me after sharing your story, and it is a process of you accepting the way you look. But it's much deeper. It's sort of a holistic approach of being within yourself, sharing your story, writing it down, sending it to someone you don't know, coming to meet people you don't know for the first time on a photo shoot, and then coming out of it with beautiful pictures of yourself and pictures that will be shared alongside your story. And I think it's really important for me to not just have images anymore. And I think it fits with what my brand is trying to portray, and the purpose of the brand that is to embrace individuality. And if you want to embrace individuality, you can't just have one picture of a category that represents everybody behind it. So for me, it's a slow process. Obviously, there are still people that are not yet represented potentially through the anti-casting, but it takes that first person to come and apply and share a story for others to feel comfortable and start sharing that space as well.
Thank you. So I was haunted by your images, actually, since February when we spoke at Curve New York, the actual one, and they are amazing. And these are not models. So these are regular people relating to you with their stories. And I feel like the way your photographer approaches the photo shoot is they don't photograph necessarily garments, they photograph souls.
Yeah.
They photograph wisdom. They take picture of like this. I would like to share picture of Sue, which is incredible. These women are luminous. This just they shine from inside.
And there's something very human that happens.
Yeah, and they look
on those photo shoots because people are not coming for photo shoot. Like there's something very therapeutic, and for me, lingerie has always been very therapeutic. That was always my go-to. Like I always tell people, like I don't drink, I don't do drugs, but I do buy lingerie, and that's how I get through things. Sometimes I just need a nice set. But like that's what's been fantastic with this experience for everybody involved, like for myself as well. And I think Jos was talking about experience, and Susie has been talking about experience as well. And you learn so much from listening to other people's stories and reading other people's stories and being interested. And I think that's what the anti-casting is trying to do. It's just, for me, it felt like I've worked in fashion for so long now, for over 10 years. And I think I've been, I did the castings the normal way or the more traditional way, and I've done photo shoots the more traditional way. It's the first time of my life that I feel like I'm creating something that's really human, and that everybody is contributing, everybody is taking something from this experience and leaving it a better person. So yes, I think that's what translates in those photos as well. It's something very personal. People are not coming, it's not just a job and we tick the box and now we move to the selects and we move to the marketing strategy. It's, you have to take into consideration the person at every single point of the process, which is really amazing.
Hey, Mena, I think it's really interesting how what you're saying is really connecting to what Laura talked about, age not being monolithic, that race and gender is also not monolithic. So I just like making that connection.
That's so true. And actually, so Sue's story from the slide before, her story is actually says that, she says that in her story, like, what does 75 looks like? And she says, I'm trying to make it look like what I want it to be. It doesn't have to be defined. I think representation is amazing. You have to start somewhere. Sometimes it's positive affirmation. Sometimes it's casting with ratios, whichever way works for you. I think for me, none of these ways worked. It didn't feel natural. It didn't align with the way I wanted to do things. And that's why I always say, like, every single post I have on Instagram, I always say, if you don't see yourself or your story represented, please share it, because that's the only way that I can then show you. I don't want to define diversity. I don't think it's the right way for me to do it. But it is so true that there's no defined stereotypes. But even Jos, earlier you were talking about people thinking you're an alien when you walk down the streets, and I think there is this conception, and even for people getting older or people from a certain demographics, there's this idea. We always try to fit the stereotypes. That's why I created my second collection, was called For Identity Against Stereotypes. We always try to fit what people expect from us. And I think what I'm trying to do with the anti-casting is also, like, strip all of this off and just remember who we are and be comfortable with what we are and who we are, because it's where we find our purpose. And I think, Laura, like, that's also what your app is about, is like arriving at a certain age and feeling like, oh, do I still have a purpose? Like, my kids are grown. I might be, thinking about retirement soon. What do I do next? Like, what's the next step in life? And the images that we have at the moment are not always so glamorous, or they're not always so flattering. So it's important for people to take center stage and take control over the narrative of their own stories and inspire other people from the same generation or the same demographic or the same ethnic group, for example, to also own their stories.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, I think we absolutely, to everybody's point, we have to create this new, which I don't know if probably, I don't think it existed before, but the very loving way of portraying everyone, really, no matter what age. And I did quite an extensive search of different websites, different lingerie companies, and let me know what you think. I found Lonely Lingerie and I went through the images, and I was pretty much very stunned on how amazing these images looked. And the way they structure their website is it's an array of images. So basically, everyone who goes there can recognize themselves. And I think that this is, I mean, everyone wants to see themselves. That's why we have mirrors. That's why we have kids. We want to see reflection of ourselves. And I think that's why we watch movies and read books, because we want to find answers. We want to, from other people's stories for ourselves. And I think this interaction, appealing to everyone, and when everyone can see themselves in the imagery, creates this different, new, very strong type of bond between brands and their consumers. And it's a story really of empowerment. It's a story of acceptance. It's a story of understanding, which I think, I mean, and the brands will be rewarded handsomely, I'm sure, because of the enormous wealth of that population.
I think as well, like because I know when we spoke, I talked to you about Lonely, because I think they're one of the brands that are so consistent with the way they're doing things. And for me, that's also very important that that those categories that we're trying to represent, those people that we're trying to represent, they're not just a token for a marketing strategy, and that there's consistency in the way that we do things. And I think for me, that's one of the key brands that has been doing it. I remember buying my first Lonely set in 2014 or 2015 and being on their website and feeling like the imagery was just so nice and normal and very accessible, and just, I felt like I was entering a community when I was browsing on their website and buying my first set. And I think that's also something that really touches, well, people like me anyway. I think that there's something very authentic with what they do and very beautiful. Yeah.
I think they also make real people look amazing, and that has to do with it, with the fact that they are personifying real, normal, everyday people, not supermodels. But just, I would say that to the people that are watching this, the Curve vendors, I think the key thing is that they figure out who their persona is, because they can't speak to every demographic. And everybody's going to have a different aesthetic, and everybody has different goals when you're talking about that demographic. They're the ones that want to keep young. They're the ones that are happy to be wrinkled. They're the ones that want to push their intellect, and they're the ones that want to look very aesthetically pleasing. So you won't be tapping into everyone, because again, aging is not monolithic. But if it aligns with your brand values, if you're a sporty brand, maybe you want to speak to the Jennifer Lopez consumer, the one that wants to keep fit. If you're all about lace, I think speaking to a woman who is more interested in beauty and it doesn't really need to be artificial could be your person. You have to look for who your 50 plus demographic is, because if you englobal them, like you say, it's not gray hair that's going to show me your aging. There are 40-year-old women with platinum gray hair that looks amazing, but they're 40. So it's just not about creating this weird, here we've tapped into this consumer because we showed boxes. Yeah, because we just show this. It doesn't work that way. And like you said, it has to be authentic.
I'm having something to say.
I see it with the anti. Oh, sorry. Yes, go for it.
No, there is now perhaps something that comes very, very close to what Laura said, that there is an enormous diversification in ages, and it has a lot to do with experience, and that is relevant under 50 as above 50. But what makes one buy something? Is that because there is an old lady with wrinkles sitting in it, or because the product is very beautiful, or the product is placed in an environment or in a situation that you feel that aspirational element? And I think at a certain age, above 60 certainly, there is quite an understanding that we just know how things can't fit when you're bigger, when you're smaller, that's not the point anymore. But what we are hungry is to share experiences, to share things that are telling something about changing world and a changing lifestyle, about changing taste as well. And that is something that I miss enormously in lingerie, because it's always about a woman that sits in the bra. And that for me is now, I see at the moment a lot of very podgy ladies in bras. And do they look good? Perhaps if you are podgy, you think that it looks good, but do you then want to buy that bra? I mean, it does. When I see Helen Mirren without makeup with makeup, it makes me laugh. So I want to be part. And it's not her body that makes me laugh. It's her being. It's her experience. It's her character. And I think that is what I find, especially in lingerie, a little bit superficial. That is constantly reprojecting women now. Happily, those women are, and I totally agree, Lonely is one of my brands to go to, but I feel that we have to learn something also from the big successes of people, like in the way they project garments of Lululemon or Nike or Adidas, where that age element and is not so directly, they are doing things, they are busy to do things, they're jumping up and down, and you think, that legging, and that I miss incredibly in lingerie. I find lingerie is too focused on the woman that sits in the bra. It's not enough focused on what is the lovely extra fantasticness. And one of the brands I admire for their photography, although there is less nakedness going on in Natori's brand, it is always, because she is older herself, it is always about something that you aspire to, that you would like to imagine that it could be you, not because of that body, but because of the imagination that a picture creates in your mind. And that is what I always felt in lingerie, especially in the ages of Victoria's Secret, is that it's either the breast or the plunge or the hips or the behind, but for an older woman, she knows that her body is not perfect. So what are all the people wanting? Therefore, I call her the collector. She wants to see much more what brings back her experience of knowing materials, of knowing cultural connections, something that is perhaps inspired by God knows what, Indonesia or something like that. Something that triggers something that makes you want to have it. And that idea of being a collector, that I find back in basically all older women, when Marie Kondo comes and says we need to empty our cupboards because that is only legacy on our shoulders. I think you must, you perhaps for some people, for some young people who are not decided yet where what their luggage is, because our luggage for a big part is us. And that luggage that also has all kind of openings to our bookcase, our books we buy, the photos we have, the ideas of the holidays, our intelligence, our connections in our brains between this and that. And so my point is, I think when you want to attract an older woman, you have to be more deep, more inspiring, more also in design. I think design is for a big part pretty basic. And when I look at brands that say now we are really going for the older woman, I will not mention brands, and I think bloody hell, not for me. That's not it. I want something that say beautiful, and it works as well, because you are a brand that has a fantastic reputation, and now you present something so gorgeous, photograph in the Louvre. I don't care, photograph on who, but I think that element of the refinement of your experiences, I miss that. That's a whole speech. What do you say of that?
Very interesting.
Fantastic. Well, Todd, what is your opinion on that? As I guess consumer, do you find that the industry is treating you well? Do you find everything that you're looking for? What is your experience?
Yeah, he's a man.
Oh, as a mid-50s man, so yeah, so I feel very underserved. That, and again, like people were saying, I kind of still feel 35. That's kind of my age, and you know, I don't want solid color shirts. I want all the interesting striped shirts that I see in the shops that don't come in my size, and you know, and so I'm a bigger guy, so also there's a little bit of you know, physical not ageism, but you know, and so or not size inclusivity, because again, I love bright colors, I like bold stripes and patterns, and they're just not available to me. So that's kind of interesting. I kind of wanted just to talk a little, or just share again. The conversation is so great. I just want to share again. I'm the data guy, so I've got information, but like, so this customer is active. In fact, during this time frame, the sport bra market grew 12% for women over 50. And again, I think that just talks to what we've been, you know, she's active, she's energetic, she is not slowing down. She wants more in her life. And again, I think that's really amazing. And the one, I want to just give kudos to a couple of retailers that I think are doing a really good job. Most of you know Target reimagined their intimate apparel space, and they have a 70-year-old model front and center in all of their marketing and point of sale and in-store merchandising, and she's gorgeous. She, again, very similar to the model's long gray hair or platinum hair, in fantastic lingerie, again, at a price point. And I think it's important, again, they're bringing that age inclusivity at, you know, to all people. And I think that's also an important thing, particularly in the US right now, is offering these, offering inclusivity at all price points, at all demographics, is really, really important. And then Soma. Soma is a store that's always focused on that older consumer. And, you know, they're doing exceptionally well. And they continue to do well in what is a decidedly kind of, you know, interesting time in terms of retail in the US. And Soma is growing exponentially. And they really focus on, they understand their customer, they create a real personal connection with them. They understand what she needs, her solutions. And, you know, they're all about sort of lifting and smoothing, and delivering those benefits in a really beautiful way, making her feel special. And, you know, I can talk as a man who, you know, I'm in the intimate apparel business. So, you know, I like men's underwear as much as women's intimate apparel. And, you know, it's really self-care. When you put on a great piece of intimate apparel, you feel better. You know, you know, I've been in focus groups probably, probably like 500 hours of focus groups of women talking about intimate apparel. And it is self-care for them, and it's confidence building, and it's kind of amazing. So that's what I love about being part of this industry. We're really making women feel better about themselves. So.
Thank you so much. I totally agree. I just recently had the personal experience, and I found about 6 sustainable brands of swimwear, and I am shopping for swimwear. So here I am, I'm ready to buy. So amazing brands too, amazing websites, gorgeous, sustainable fabrics. So everything is good, and it's what I want to buy. And then I couldn't find in all 6 websites, I couldn't find the swimsuit that will be able to serve me, because I'm active. I'm active on the beach. I like to jump in waves. You know, I might not look at it, nobody probably think about me like that. But I like to play volleyball, and I like a 2-piece bathing suit to wear, and none of these would stay on me in those waves, and I know. So we do need attention. We need attention from brands, and to kind of learn who we are and what we want and how we want it, and because some things we want differently, and we know why, because we know what works and what doesn't already. So and even by looking at things, we can tell if it works or doesn't work. So there's like an enormous learning curve in everything, but I think eventually it will be very beautiful symbiosis of empowerment and knowledge acquired by brands, and rewarded handsomely by demographic, and accepted by demographic. So this has to happen then very soon. Yeah, so fantastic. So do we want to talk a little bit more about any type of maybe products that are specific to this, or constructions or something that's specific to this demographic?
Yes.
I think I'd love to hear this, because Asi, you had this conversation with me about the swimsuit, and I laughed because the way you described the product that you wanted, I was saying to you, like, on paper, if you describe what you want, and if I was to describe what I want, the designer would look at it and be like, okay, Maina needs the older person's design by stereotype, and you would be the younger design. And I think that's the thing, is like, those conversations are so important, because we tend to put people in boxes, and we think, okay, she is over 50, she's gonna need, I don't know, more support, which might be true, but I'm just, you know, stereotypes, more support, only cotton, only, like, you know, those criteria that are probably untrue. When I shot Sue in this very sheer set, she picked the collection for her story, right? So she knew what she was going to be shot in. And I did say to her, it's a very sheer collection. Are you comfortable? She's like, yeah, no, I know what it looks like. I'm fully comfortable. That's the kind of things that I would normally wear. And I was the one worried that, you know, she might not feel comfortable, but everybody's so different, and we can't define. So it's good for the consumer, and the consumer is so savvy nowadays as well. And customer knows that they have a voice, right? And I think the more we use that voice, the more you guys share with us, because, for example, I'm from a different demographic. So again, I might have preconceived ideas. I might be designing with someone in my head, and it's not at all that person that's going to be buying that style. So I think the more conversations we have, the more we can grow and create beautiful collections that might not, you know, no brand is for everyone, but at least cater for the people that are attracted by the aesthetic of the brand.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I know, Susie, that you do that, right? You kind of bring these two entities together. The young, very amazing, and designers, they do everything right, really. They're very eco-conscious, and they're into ethical way of manufacturing, super progressive, just the, very progressively thinking. And you provide this wealth of experience for them, knowledge of construction, right? Knowledge, maybe something that you've acquired when everything was done by hand, when we did our patterns by hand back then, like 30 years ago, when production hasn't been shipped all in different countries, including China. I remember that time. And then with transition, that's Generation X, would transition to digital world. And I remember it wasn't easy. It was just a lot of learning and being uncomfortable for a very long time. But now these two worlds can come together and really create something amazing.
Absolutely. And I love what Mina said about some of it is not so much the age as it is just what your personal taste is. And as one gets older, they have the confidence to express their taste. So I think that it's more the embodiment of your spirit, and that there is a confidence in your choices, whatever they are, whether they're lingerie or choices of how you want to spend your time, or choices of what you're going to do in your day as you get a little older. Because while Todd said, and I was saying as well, we feel like we're in our 30s, it is that mindset with the beauty of the age of being able to say, and hey, I really know what I want to do with my time. I want to work with companies like this, or I want to be on a panel like this to learn from other women and men. And that's the beauty of so much of these marriages of experience and youth and confidence on all sides. So that's why I think it is getting better and better for the demographics that are aging, because they're confident in the way they feel about what they're doing, which makes you feel more alive, younger, and just more optimistic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
please.
in a generalization, yes, that's true. But as we now talk about how our problems, then we come to very interesting situations. Because I remember, although I'm one of the people who invented the t-shirt bra, so I can't say that padded bras are absolutely horrible, but they became the go for trading a thing for everybody, and they even were supposing people who didn't want padding, everybody had to wear padding in the biggest possible sizes, because obvious it fitted, there was a sort of broad fitting possibility with padded bras, and if it didn't fit, you hardly could see it. That became, and in that time, especially in the end of that time, in sort of beginning of 2000, around me, everybody older said, why the heck are all those bras padded? We don't want padded bras. Now, at that time, I worked a lot with a very big company, the biggest in the world, and I tried to convince them that, and now we actually would like unpadded bras, if it could be unwired as well, because a whole generation of women don't want those padded bras, and they don't want those push-up bras. Now, that was more or less thrown out of the window with one reason, and that was volume. Because our problem of diversity, what we're talking about, we talk about a market, which was, when I started in lingerie, the market was very diverse. There were masses of very, very interesting brands, each with their own little specific style and fitting ideas. Now, if you now even here in France, half of them have disappeared, but because what we were seeing is the globalization, which demanded a certain volume. So every target group which didn't help to produce that volume was more or less cut off. I mean, no, that doesn't give us the volume. Yeah, I would like perhaps that lace also non-wired. No, 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 no. That's the SKUs are now going out of the window. You can't have it. So our market became, for a very big part, completely in the hands of the the marketing people who had to present the volume that was necessary to produce for a very low price in China. It is as simple as that, and that for a big part has also put people out of business, because those big Chinese companies had the money to invest in all kind of new technology. So when somebody smaller was coming back in the market, the way those products were constructed was out of fashion at a certain moment. And you see that again, there's a big problem at the moment with smaller volumes, that people are looking for manufacturers who can produce that, but with the same needle treatment and the same technical know-how as those big companies in China. So that's there as well. So I think I'm happy to think now that perhaps post-COVID, where smaller companies are under argument, where are coming into the market with a complete different mindset. They look at the world from a consumer point of view in general, which is new. I mean, I have worked with companies, the consumers, she was there sort of in target groups. What would you buy now? If 3 people said we would buy that, but and you looked at them, and because they were sitting behind glass, and you thought, would you listen to that woman? And now it was 3, and the other people, that was the majority. So we did that. It was a different market for a long time. And I think that with a little bit of luck, we can actually reinvent that market. And inclusivity for me doesn't mean that everybody who is outsized should fit into the same size as somebody who's very, very thin, but it means also keeping track of people with another skin tone, and people with another age group, and people with another handicap, but really, really focusing on and that is, of course, the beauty from globalization. You can reach them, so you're not only dependent on one market. You can trade internationally. So then a target group automatically is bigger, and I think that is the thing. And then I don't want to even talk about shops. I mean, Soma is a good example, but God, look at some shops. You don't even want to. And then some of the department stores with all those bras hanging like little soldiers next to each other. I mean, what is the fun of that now? So there, I think there's where Laura has right. There is such a diversity of people, but in my opinion, of all age groups. And therefore, I started in my presentations talking about mindsets, because there are mindsets that combine that unites us. I mean, the interest in flowers and nature and gardens that goes from young to old. So take advantage of that, and then within that there is a lot to do. You can go all kinds of directions. So that COVID could be a blessing in disguise. I don't know, for us, aged.
Just to Jels's point, I think that the crucial thing when we talk about aging is the fact that it's always been put in a pool, much like, let's say, the globalization made brands be monolithic. Like, here's this company, huge company with bras this way, here's this other company with bras the other way. Right now, what people want is a la carte, really, to have options of what fits them and their vision of who they are. And I think that's the opportunity, yes, as Josh says, for smaller brands to put their very specific vision of what, which consumer, what they stand for, what the aspirations of that consumers are. And it is a huge market opportunity in the sense that the internet, I don't think, when I don't know if you guys have seen TikTok, but there's a whole world for millennials and Gen Zs there that it's happening in terms of consumer brands that none of us know about. They're going direct to the consumer, creating this strange markets. And I think that's going to also happen in the aging space. It's already happening with Instagram, where there's like this influencers, 50, 60-year-old women who are speaking to very specific different aesthetics, and there's gonna be a brand for all of them, for everything from health to beauty to, of course, lingerie. And you can create them from like your home, and that is the opportunity now. And well, okay, you cannot sew the bras at home, but I do hope that there is more of that smaller craft and not the big production. You know, now COVID also did show that manufacturing all in China is not necessarily the easiest if this happens again. So hopefully, I mean, there's going to be, they're bringing back the studios to everyone's different countries and cities and economies. And that's going to happen also when we talk about healthcare. People are going to need their own very personalized versions for them of how they're going to treat themselves, their bodies. It's a huge world of opportunity.
Absolutely. It is a tremendous
I think that is very well said. That is absolutely, absolutely true. But the conclusion should be that because of that globalization, not only the aged consumer, but also a lot of other consumers with a different taste, they fell off the chart. They were not cared for. Look at the whole protest of people of color. They protest. They want also their skin tones, and people are saying, "No, that brings my whole system out of proportion, expensive." And you think, "What are you doing, guys? You're making garments for people, not for the to fit the production capacity." So here we go. Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm not sure how we are on time there, but it was an amazing webinar and experience, inspiration, realization. And thank you so much. And yeah, we hope the future is bright and,
Absolutely.
and very optimistic.
Now I can
Thanks
tell
so
you,
much.
I'm selecting at this moment fabrics for a hybrid forum, which is very interesting.
Oh, nice.
But there apart from the obvious stuff, but there are fabrics coming in that are so delightful. So there is no and so technical and so doing everything that could create something absolutely fantastic. So there is no reason not to have those garments we all want.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Yus and everyone.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. Nice to
Thank
meet
you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Thank
Or,
you. This was great.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
you.
so much. This webinar was so inspirational, and I am sure that everyone who will attend this webinar will actually get a lot out of all your beautiful comments and everything you said. And I think it's very inspirational for people and entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs who want to tap into this amazing market. So thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.